Welcome to the Jeff Crilley Show. My name is Jeff Crilley. I'm your host, and I am thrilled to have in studio Lieutenant Jason J. Redman, retired Navy SEAL, in studio. Welcome to the show.
Jeff, thanks for having me on. Always good to be back with you in Dallas.
Well, I have to tell the audience that, we talk about heroes, and many people point to movie stars or athletes, and this is a true hero. I don't want to take away from your story. Can you share your story?
My story is unique. It is a story of success and failure and redemption and injury and recovery. I mean, that's really very quickly my story. In a nutshell, I was a young man, joined the Navy at 17 years old, and like many young men who find success early, I got choked out by two very dangerous compadres that walk with you, ego and arrogance. And those two things, as I moved up at a young age in the leadership ladder, enabled me to make some mistakes and, really kind of lose my way and lose my sight as a young leader. So suddenly, I found myself in a situation as a young SEAL leader where I had people saying, hey, kick him out. Guy's selfish. Guy only looks at himself. Guy makes dangerous calls for himself and not looking at the mission and the men. And thankfully, in life, sometimes we're fortunate enough to have people who see our true potential. And one of my leaders saw that and said, you know what? He's made some mistakes, but I see a lot of potential in this kid. I'm going to give him a chance to fix himself. And they did. And I went down a hard path of having to rebuild back the trust and credibility and respect to my teammates, but I did it over a several-year period. Went on, got my career back on track, found myself in Iraq. Very successful combat deployment with some of the best warriors I ever had the honor to work with. And right about the end of that deployment, I was involved in a major enemy ambush, Al-Qaeda ambush, and got all shot up. I was hit 8 times between my body and body armor. Took a round in the face, took 2 rounds in the left elbow that almost took my arm off. And basically started a whole new journey of getting put back together. And it became the second defining moment in my life of my leadership journey. The first one, really learning how to redeem myself and lead. The second one, coming to understand that you can lead in any situation. And also one of the most critical things, and this is what I talk to everybody about now, when we encounter these hard moments, you have a choice. You have a choice in how you're going to deal with the negativity, how you're going to deal with this crushing moment that will forever change your life. And it was in that moment that I made the choice, and I got to tell you about the moment because it's pretty critical, because this is really, life works this way so often. So 5 days after my injuries, I'm laying in the hospital bed in Bethesda, Maryland, and I had a couple of people come into the room to visit me. And we did some small talk, and then I started to drift off a little bit, and they started to have a conversation next to my bed. And I was listening as I lay in that bed as they talked to themselves. And their conversation was all about, what a shame, what a pity, what a tragedy, And you have to understand, a military combat hospital is a hard place to be. I mean, burns, amputees, traumatic brain injuries. I mean, it's a hard place to be. And obviously the weight of that environment was really piling up on the people in my room. But they were just going on about these young men and women will never be the same. They'll never find their way. And they'll never be the same. And they left. And I remember laying there thinking, oh my God, is this my future? Is this all I'm ever going to be? Is from this point forward, am I never going to be able to overcome? And I'm just not going to be able to do these things. And life's so similar. We oftentimes will have these points where we fall down and people will say, you're never going to be able to drive forward. You're never going to be able to overcome this. And so many people believe it. So many people buy it. They get stuck in that moment. And the difference was, I decided I wasn't. I said, you have 2 options. You can lay here on something I call the X, that point of incident, and you can feel sorry for yourself and fret over what you might have lost, or you can figure out how to drive forward and find the future. And in that moment, my wife came back in the room, and I wrote to her, because I couldn't talk, I was trached, wired shut, and I said, never again. Never again am I going to feel sorry for myself. I'm going to figure out how to drive forward. I'm going to figure out how to lift others up. And I wrote out this sign.
We have that sign.
Yeah. Well, so, and there wasn't a whole lot of thought. I literally wrote it out in a stream of consciousness. It said, attention to all who enter here. If you're coming in this room with sadness or sorrow, don't bother. The wounds that I received, I got in a job that I love, doing it for people that I love, defending the freedom of a country that I deeply love. I will make a full recovery. What is full? That's the absolute utmost. Physically, I have the ability to recover, and then I'll push that about 20% further through sheer mental tenacity. This room you're about to enter is a room of fun, optimism, and intense rapid regrowth. If you're not prepared for that, go elsewhere. And we signed it, the management, because of course, and we put it on the door, and it just took on a life of its own.
It went viral.
It went viral. It made it all the way to President Bush and the White House. President Bush invited me to the White House several months later after I got out of the hospital, me and my family. And since that day, that's been 12 years now, that sign has probably impacted millions of people. I have had people that are undergoing cancer reach out to me. I've had individuals who have been in horrific accidents, wounded warriors, all these different people that have been impacted by it. And it all goes back to that moment that all of us face.
Wow.
I call them life ambushes. I call them the end moments. But the most amazing thing is they can become a new beginning. And that really has been my life and sharing that.
I love it. And we're going to show your website because you have a beautiful website, and you have not one, but soon to be 2 best-selling books. Why don't you tell us about the first book?
So the first book, The Trident, follows that journey that I talked about. It is my personal memoir from being a young man coming into a very elite unit and growing up and understanding what it is to be a leader, especially combat, and failing. I failed at a major level. I mean, I had guys who I worked with who said, I don't want to work with that guy. And you have to understand, in the special operations community, in the military specifically, any job where people's lives depend on the people next to them, they are well within their right to say that. And, and that community is well within their right to say, you know what, guys don't trust you, their lives depend on that, we're going to get rid of you. And it probably would have been easy for my community and my leadership to have done that, but they didn't. They gave me a second chance, and the book follows that journey of really digging deep into who I was, what were my motivations for being a leader, for being a SEAL, and how did I change my mindset and really focus on the mission, the men, myself last. So it follows that whole journey. One of the interesting things that people find funny about the book is even though I was a SEAL, I ended up going to U.S. Army Ranger School because my leadership saw an opportunity. Ranger School is a phenomenal leadership school. It's leadership through the school of hard knocks and a lot of adversity. And it was great for me because it was exactly what I needed to step outside of myself and understand how to lead and really understand who I was. And came back from that school, focused on just driving forward, focused on being a leader, redeemed myself, earned back my credibility, found myself in Iraq, obviously sustained those grievous injuries. And that's what the book follows. And the one other thing it follows, and a lot of people don't realize this, it's a love story.
Wow.
It is a love story. It follows the journey of my wife and I, how we met and how she is a rock star. So many people who read the book have the greatest appreciation for my wife, and I wrote it to highlight the military spouses that are out there and what they go through. The long periods of time we're away, the dangerous jobs we have, and then, of course, the major negativity that can occur, which is, of course, if a husband or wife is killed or severely injured, and we experience that. So that is the first book, went on to be a New York Times bestseller.
And now you've got a second one.
I am super excited about the second one. It comes out December 10th, and this has really been a labor of love because when I got out of the military, I was running my own nonprofit to help wounded warriors, and I was still speaking, and obviously my story had gotten out there, and I kept getting the same question. How did you do what you did? How did you stay positive and drive forward from this catastrophic event? I mean, in one fell swoop, my military career was ended. I was disabled. I will never. My left arm will never be the same as it used to be. I was disfigured. And they said, yet you remain positive, you remain driving forward, you're helping others, you're doing all these things. They said, how'd you do what you did? And I'll be honest, I wasn't able to clearly answer that question. I could talk to people about resiliency and grit, but I could not articulate it in a step-by-step process that somebody else could duplicate. So over the last 6 years, as I was working with many wounded warriors, as I was working with individuals that had been through trauma, I really was just constantly writing. I developed a curriculum called the Overcome Academy. I was putting wounded warriors through, and all these things that I had learned and really starting to peel the onion back started to become a step-by-step process. And then the final component was I reached out to other senior military leaders who I knew could appreciate this concept. And the concept that the book is built around is this. My team and I survived a devastating enemy ambush. And the reason we survived is because we applied specific special operations principles we learned. Principle number one was an idea called you have to get off the X. So in an ambush or in any kind of attack, there is a specific point of attack, the specific point of the incident. They try and pin you to that spot and put as much devastating firepower upon it to pin you down and hopefully kill your will to fight or kill your ability to fight. And my entire adult life, I had trained to do that to the enemy. And then suddenly on September 13, 2007, I found myself on the receiving end of it. And it was utterly devastating. I was caught in the crossfire of 2 large machine guns. I was stitched across the body armor of the body. I was shot in the face that tore apart the right side of my face. And I was pinned down by this gunfire. And in that moment, all I wanted to do was kind of really dig a little hole in the ground and just pray that this would stop. You know, hey, I wanted to be like, hey, time out. Can we stop shooting for a minute? You know, I'm getting all shot up and this sucks. And unfortunately, war does not work that way. And what I began to find as I worked with other wounded warriors and individuals that have been through major trauma or major life ambushes, as I call them, is we all react the same. I might have survived an enemy ambush that was getting impacted by bullets and bombs going off, but when people have life ambushes, they feel no different. They feel like they're being impacted by the bullets and bombs of life.
Yes.
Whether it is a young couple that is being torn apart by divorce, whether it is a young company that is involved in a lawsuit, you know, a bigger company's trying to bleed them dry, whether it is a young woman who's afflicted with breast cancer and is being told by a doctor, you know, we're going to have to do a double mastectomy, or even anyone out there who has been in the end moment and they think there's no way out of this. If we were to hook both of us up to medical devices and measured our heart rate, breathing, stress levels, all these different things, me in that firefight, them in those situations, they would look identical.
Wow.
And the reason being because the body handles stress and those overwhelming moments the same way. Our body goes into fight or flight mode. It doesn't say, oh, this is a firefight, I need to raise the level. It says you are in a crisis. And this book is a blueprint on how to deal with that. It is a blueprint on how to apply specific step-by-step instructions. I took special operations principles and turned them into relatable principles that anybody can utilize in their life. And then we also turned it into how to become more proactive so that you can be better ready for the life ambushes that are coming.
Well, you're an amazing speaker, and I understand you're about to do a TED Talk.
Yeah.
So just to give your audience just a little flavor of what it's like to hire Jay Redman, let's watch this video.
Every day you wake up is a gift. Because as a leader, it's absolutely critical that we have to motivate not only ourselves, number one, we have to motivate and inspire others to move forward. I'll tell you what, success does not happen by quitting. This is how you squeak out the margins of performance that make the difference between you and someone else getting ahead and winning. 95% of people, when they say this phrase, I've had a bad day, or what a bad day, it is merely a disruption in how they thought their day was going to unfold. Now I got a second chance at life. Most people, you only get one shot. You get one shot to go through this life and make the most of it. And most people take it for granted. The question you need to ask yourself as a leader is this: do people follow you because they want to or because they have to? And for most of us, if we look at it with perspective, it can make us better. It can motivate and inspire others to greatness. Hope is an ember. It is an ember that you can put gasoline on and blow it into a raging inferno. That is hope. Hope enables the overcome mindset. And you can lead from any situation, whether it's a hospital bed, whether it's in this room, whether it's out there on the streets or on the battlefield. Because it's your attitude that will determine the outcome. Any wall or door or obstacle that you find in your path, you will get through it. You will either go over it, under it, around it, or you will destructively go through it. But no matter what, you will get to the other side. This is the essence of the overcome mindset. You know, everybody's heard that phrase, well, you got to carry your weight. Well, in BUDS, Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training, there's no truer statement than that right there when it leads to teamwork. We can never go back and change the past. All we can do is shape our futures. People who survive, people who squeak out those margins of performance to be better, they're the ones that get off the X the fastest. They're the ones that recognize in order to survive, in order to be better, in order to drive forward and shape your future, you have to get off the X as quickly as possible. People out there who will get to the end of their lives and say, I wanted to do that, but I was too afraid and never went after it. And you will go off into the great unknown wondering, what if I had? The only thing stopping you from accomplishing greatness in your life is you.
Wow. I have to ask you this question because it seems like when you're a motivational speaker, you can't have a bad day, can you? I mean, do you ever get depressed?
Oh, absolutely, because I'm human. I mean, that's the thing. I don't care who you are. If you're a Navy SEAL, we are still human at the end of the day. And that's one of the biggest things I talk about in this book. Those things are choices. I mean, I have hard days and I have tough days. Now, what I've done is I've erased the term a bad day out of my vocabulary. And the reason being, it's such a trite phrase that so many of us wrap our heads around, and so many of us use it so loosely. You know, we come home and, you know, our day might not have unfolded in the manner we think.
They messed up your latte at Starbucks.
That's a perfect one. I see that a lot. I see people lose their mind because their order's wrong. And I'm like, really?
They ran out of Popeye's chicken sandwiches.
Oh, yeah, another one. I just watch and I'm dumbfounded. You know, these are first world problems. And,
Yes.
And so many people even say that. And I'm like, you don't know the truth of that statement. But the reality is I just focus on, I got a second chance. I got a second chance, and I think that's where perspective plays such a key. This is why I tell people you need to go out and see the world. You need to get out of your comfort zone, because by doing hard things, it's going to give you a better appreciation for the hard moments in life. And you'll stop focusing on your misery and your bad day, and you'll start realizing that the mere fact that you woke up alive in this country, that you have the freedom and opportunity to do anything you want. What the great thing about living in America, if you don't want to go to work that day, you don't have to. You can go off and start your own career path. There's nobody that's going to come handcuff you and drag you back to that job, because this is the greatness of America. And so many people waste that. That is your gift. So instead of saying it's a bad day, I wake up and say it's a good day. It's up to you to make it a great day. Don't get me wrong. You're going to have tough days. You're going to have hard days. But no bad days. A bad day is defined as a catastrophic event that will forever leave physical, mental, or emotional scars. Bad days are life ambushes.
Wow. Well, I know that you have caught the attention of the media, both local and national. We've got some video of you talking to Neil Cavuto, I believe, on Fox News Channel. You've done hundreds and hundreds of interviews. I mean, do you find that is a ministry for you? Because I think about all of the people you're reaching through the TV set.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, TV is one of the greatest mediums out there. I mean, in this day and age, we consume knowledge through video. I mean, so many of us tune into TV, we turn into YouTube, we turn into, you know, the amazing Jeff Crilley Show, because we want to see, we want to see what's out there. And I know that my message resonates with people. People get it. I can't tell you. It is my goal and prayer in every talk that I do that at least one person will wake up and get off the X. And it happens almost every talk. I have people, sometimes people don't even realize they're on the X in life. They have settled, and what happens, they settle and they become tolerant of the discomfort and the things they don't like in life. They settle for that bad job.
Yes.
They settle for not making enough money. They settle for a bad relationship that they know they should have gotten out of years ago. And they get tolerant of the discomfort. And it's so great to me when I have somebody come up to me and say, oh my God, I've been on the X for years, and you woke me up, and I'm going to start taking the steps to change my life.
People can spend generations on the X. They talk about that high school injury. Otherwise, they would have been a quarterback, and they just live on the X for their whole life.
Absolutely. So many people focus on the misery and what they no longer have. And the reality is, you can never go back and change the past. The only thing you can do is shape the future. Yet so many people waste so much time looking for something or someone to blame. And they will focus all their time and energy, and it just spirals you down. The longer you sit on the X, it's like quicksand. It will pull you down, and the harder it is to get off of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're such an inspiration. We're gonna put up your website one more time, and people can email you through the website and book you to speak. Or,
Absolutely.
Can they pre-order your book yet, or is that not yet?
They can. So the book is available for pre-order. As a matter of fact, we have some awesome deals going right now. If you go to overcomebook.com,
okay.
If you buy the book right now, you upload your receipt, you can actually get free access to my 72 Hours to Peak Performance course, which will walk you off the X and teach you how to be proactive. A lot of the principles I have in the book, and we have some other great little incentives to buy the book. But
Cool.
it's out there.
Well, you're an amazing guest, and I hope you'll come back.
Jeff, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
What a true hero and inspiration. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.